Right now we have the Colin Baker figure, which is I think supposed to be from Terror of the Vervoids, which has a cool repaint on the vest, and I actually really like the yellow bow instead of the blue one that we have. However, the rest of the figure, I mean, while essentially the same, they sort of cut some corners because the original Colin Baker was so expensive for character options to paint because of all the individual detailing. His stripes aren't as nicely done as the first time. They're a little sloppy. One of them ends about a quarter centimeter from the bottom of his pant. So the pink on this lapel and on this sleeve are kind of salmon colored instead of bright pink like they should be. And on his plaid, they really sort of chinsed out and just did one vertical line down on each section. But on this sleeve, they kept the full patterning. I don't know if anyone can really make that out from the video. I have the original Colin Baker in his classic costume, and I have the real-time all-blue costume, which I actually really prefer to anything. So this is another figure that I think I'm going to be giving away to someone. However, I really like the likeness of Colin Baker in this figure. I don't know what it is, if it's just the paint or if it's something else, but the face just looks a lot more like Colin Baker than the original release. Maybe it's just me wanting to believe it, but the face looks a lot more fuller. And his features spread out a little bit more. The original one, he sort of had a narrow face, which is just not Colin Baker at all. Interestingly enough, he's the only Doctor in this set to come without an accessory. I'm not sure why. I really don't need yet another sonic lance. And he didn't have a screwdriver at all and anything else of note. But it just seemed odd that he'd be the only one to lack an accessory. Still a nice figure if you don't have a Colin Baker, but not really inspiring me to keep it. So let's move on now to Sylvester McCoy. Alright, so this is Sylvester McCoy from, I think, his last season. I don't know that they've ever said it's a specific episode. It's essentially just a repaint of the Remembrance of the Daleks figure, just without his hat and with the full head of hair. As a repaint, I really like it. I think the brown look suited Sylvester McCoy better on the show than the gray look. And I just think all the colors that Character Options have chosen to paint this figure work a lot better. The plaid on his pants looks better with the sort of this stripe of beige in it. The sweater contrasts better with the brown jacket. And just the sort of the paisley bandana looks a lot better than the flat bandana in the last one. And his scarf just looks a lot better. And to be frank, it's painted better than my A Remembrance of the Daleks one. The hair could probably be a little better. His head looks a little small. However, I mean, I lucked out because some of these figures were supposedly having bulbous heads where it looks like Sylvester is holding his breath. So, the fine detailing is really nice. There's a little gold chain. He comes with his umbrella, which for some reason doesn't stay in his hand as good as the other figures. There's not really much on his back. They do include a little belt on his back. I don't know if you can see it. So I really like that. So, and the likeness is better this time. He doesn't have that goofy grin on his face. So I just think it looks better. It looks a lot more like Sylvester McCoy. And this one's probably going on my bookshelf, and I'll keep the other one for display with my quote unquote variant Doctors. So now we move on to McGann. Okay, so this is essentially the toy that most people bought this entire set for. This is the 8th Doctor, Paul McGann. Only appeared in one movie, yet he has a pretty big following from a stellar series of novels, a stellar series of comics, and a stellar series of audio adventures. It's really interesting how much of a mythos is built up around this one night only Doctor. The figure is great, especially because it's something that a lot of people have wanted. Um, I have one or two minor nitpicks with it. There's always been a little bit of a controversy over what color his jacket was in the movie, and the Fox movie sort of has that like mid '90s darkness to it. So at times it looks black, at times it looks green. The jacket in reality was green, and this toy, it is green if you hold it to the light, but it's a really dark green. Now, it doesn't bother me. I think the figure looks fine for what it is. It could be any costume color, really. But I wish it was a little more greener, sort of an emerald color, as opposed to this dark green that they picked. The only other real problem is that they painted McGann's hair dark brown. Now, he was wearing a wig in the movie, and his hair in the movie is sort of not red, but like a really light brown, bordering on blonde. And, it just sort of takes a little bit away from the likeness that his hair is too dark. However, it's not a big problem. The likeness to McGann is brilliant. I really like it. He does have a little bit of an intense stare, and one eye is a little higher than the other, which makes him look a little weird. But for a figure that they're most likely not going to release on its own, I'll take it. I'm really excited for this. McGann's probably my third favorite Doctor, just from all the stuff that's been released for him. So he was really important to me to have. One thing is, a lot of people have noted, his left leg joint is loose. You do have to sort of push it up, otherwise he stands a little weird. His right leg is higher than the other. And definitely worth it to get this box, along with the quote-unquote variants of all the Doctors. Really, this is the one I was most concerned about, because the prototype that they didn't even really show anyone is not the greatest. He definitely has the look. I think the vest and ascot might not be the right color for the movie, but again, the costume looks like what McGann wore if it's not the exact color. But it is McGann. I'm really glad to have him. So now we move on to the modern Doctors, which should prove interesting. See you in a sec. Okay, so here we have the Christopher Eccleston action figure, which it's amazing how long it took to actually get a Ninth Doctor action figure made. This is exactly the same as the, I think, 2008 Comic-Con Eccleston, except that his jumper is burgundy instead of green. It was only green in, I think, Father's Day, and it was maroon most of the other time. Aside from that minor paint difference, it is the exact same figure. The leg joints might be a little different. I'm not sure. I haven't checked with my other Eccleston. I do think they scaled the leather vest a little bit better. Mine kind of looks like it's too big for him. It still looks a little too big for him here, but it doesn't seem as ridiculous. And if I had mine easily accessible right now, I'd get it out and show you. There's really not much to him. The likeness of Eccleston is great. He has the big schnoz. It doesn't look like, if you remember the initial release, whose arm could only go like that. He doesn't look like Don Adams. It's funny how many joke names there are for these Doctors. For some reason, mine doesn't stand very well, as you can see, unless he's doing a split, which looks really weird. Not the greatest. There's not much you could really do with Eccleston because he really only wears the one thing, just with a different jumper. It does come with the sonic screwdriver, which they painted a little differently than the Tenet one. I think to put some sort of difference, it looks like this one's supposed to be open and Tenet's is supposed to be closed, unless they're just sized wrong. So yeah, we'll take a look at Tenet next.